Bulldog broadcast on the Field of 68 Media Network. I'm your host, Dan Dickau, where we try to break down many things Gonzaga Bulldogs, whether current, past, maybe even future. Today's is current, but also a little bit of the past. Our guest, my cohort for a number of games, Greg Heister. Greg, thanks for joining.
And years now, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years we've been working together with Richard Fox as the triumvirate for the regional broadcast. You and I worked together as well on Pac-12 networks for a lot of games. But when you look back at the course of your broadcasting career, and this goes back beyond the 10 years you and I have worked together, what's been the most amazing thing for you to see with this Gonzaga Bulldog program?
Just the consistency. Right? I mean, just the absolute consistency of it. When you look back all of these years, and it's been over 20 for me now, the idea of them not being in the NC2A tournament in the month of March it's an afterthought, right? Like I can remember a couple of years there were, they had to win the WCC tournament to get in. Of course, we think they did. You never know. They may have still earned an at-large bid. But it's just kind of a rite of passage now for spring. If you're a fan of Gonzaga basketball, that the season always ends in the month of March, sometimes in early April, but it always ends in the NC2A tournament. And so I just think it's the absolute consistency. When you look back through the history and the annals of college basketball, I mean, it's almost unprecedented now. Like even Coach Krzyzewski had years where, they didn't live up to expectations. They weren't great. You look at, Michigan State has had years. Look at Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. His run with the Orangemen was spectacular. I grew up in Western New York, grew up a Syracuse fan. So I remember the early days there, Ronnie Cycli and Derek Coleman and all of those teams. And he's still coaching, but his program's not where it was at one point in time. And so it's just, Coach Few has done just a spectacular job. Dan, you've been a big part of that. And when you look at all the assistant coaches that have come and gone now over these years at Gonzaga, and it's still at the very top. I mean, it's, all of the trophies aside, it's the consistency and how spoiled we are now as a fan of Gonzaga basketball.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it. Gonzaga basketball fans, I don't like to say this, there might be blowback, but there is some being spoiled.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I'll go through a grocery store and people, recently asked about the Gonzaga losing to Duke and to Alabama. Oh, what's wrong with this team? And I'm like, hold on a second, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Duke currently is, I think, ranked second or third.
Yeah.
Alabama now has cracked into the top 10. I said, those are good teams. Yeah. Those might be Final Four caliber teams when all things are said and done. Oh, but Gonzaga, hold on a second. They were in both of those games. They had chances to win. And I'm sure you've heard it more so than I have, just because you've called the games for 20-some years. What's the most random comment maybe that you've heard from a fan about Gonzaga?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with that. It's always about the sky is falling when Gonzaga loses a game. I mean, can you imagine being at that point in your life or your career, or in this case, a basketball program where you lose a game and people are wondering, like, what's wrong with the Zags? I think this team was unfairly saddled with that number one ranking to start the year, Dan. I'm trying. Maybe it's happened, maybe it's not. When you look back through the history of college basketball, how many teams in the history of this game lost all starting guards, literally, to the NBA, and yet the very following year were ranked number one? Now, I know at Kentucky they've lost several players to the NBA draft or such, but all three starting guards, the most important positions in the month of March in college basketball, those guard positions, they all left and they're all playing professionally. And yet this team was ranked number 1 to start. And I think a lot of it was because of the arrival of Chet Holmgren. And I just think the expectations were set unfairly too high. Now, I personally think that this is a team that can get to the Final Four if it continues to evolve at the rate that it's evolving. But it's just indicative of where the program is. I mean, think about it, Dan. They lost 2 games in their first 11 or 12, and they never left the top 5.
No.
And people are asking like, oh, this is the year that Gonzaga doesn't live up to expectations. Like, I love this. I love this. Just there's a lot of insanity in our world these days, and then there's just the stuff in college basketball and sports that we get to deal with that we can shake our head at. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the end of the year, we can laugh at it. So
yeah,
it's cool. It's great.
Well, because with those 11 games, Gonzaga's played 5 ranked opponents.
I know.
Texas, Duke, UCLA, Alabama, and Texas Tech. And you go 3-2, and the 2 losses were both single digits. I mean, Alabama, there was a run late from Alabama that kind of put it out of reach, but they were in it with 4 minutes left to go. When you look at the non-conference, how would you grade it on a A to F curve?
Well, I think they're ranked in the top 5. I think it's got to be an A. I think that Coach Few's done a great job over the years of assessing his teams before he gets there and understanding, being visionary when he sets up that schedule, in the early summer, late spring, exactly when that happens. When he starts to figure all that out, first thing he looks at is his team. Now, how good are we going to be? What exactly is it that we need? He's played a schedule that's perfect. He's played a schedule, in my opinion, that that kept him on the national conversation, gave his teams opportunities to truly test themselves against what college basketball has to offer, kind of a barometer opportunity. And then he's had these other games where maybe they have to play against a style that will prepare them for the NC2A tournament. That game against Texas Tech, people look at it and, well, yeah, that's a nice win on the road. And I look at it like, wow, that team just earned a lot of confidence against a team that would love to have kept it in the 40s.
Yeah.
They're going to grind it down. They're not going to allow you to throw the ball to the post. They're not going to allow you to get the ball to your strengths. You got to figure out another way of beating us. And this is a young team that did that without, Drew Timme scoring 25 points. They were able to get it done and win that game and move on. I think that those sorts of experiences are going to pay off for them in the month of March. They will face another team like that if they get deep into the NCAA tournament. So I think it's been a masterful build of this non-conference schedule. And I'm, we called the game the other night and against Northern Arizona, and you can talk talent all you want, Big Sky all you want. The fact of the matter is the execution in that game was spectacular. The Zags only turned the ball over 5 times. All 5 turnovers came in the last 4 minutes and 38 seconds, I think, of the first half. They shot the ball from 3 again well. They shot free throws well, and they defended at a rate, Dan, points per possession defensively that we haven't seen much.
That number was ridiculous. I think it was like 0.658 points per possession.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, nobody's going to beat you.
Yeah. And Jalen Cone, remember, he scored 17 at the half. In the past, in Gonzaga years of the past, somebody would get going. They didn't have an answer for it that last game against Northern Arizona. They had an answer. They shut him down. He scored 2 points in the second half. So
yeah, you started the last answer to my question off about Coach Few, and he's had a huge accolade brought his way in the last week or so. Now, excuse me, I know you know Coach Few well off the court with different fishing adventures as well as professionally as a broadcaster. How important or how excited is he for this chance to be a part of, really, I guess when you look at it, the only 4 coaches that are truly representing USA basketball at the highest level?
Yeah, Dan, I mean, he's got to be extremely proud, humbled, all of those sort of descriptive terms. And what an opportunity it is to go. He's talked about it in the past, with his USA basketball days and coaching in any way and just being involved with something that represents his country. He's taken a lot of pride in that. And now I think he's reached the top of the rung with it. And um, I think personally it's a huge deal for him. I think that, it's also been an extremely big commitment over the years. They always talk about players that play all summer for USA basketball, especially in an Olympic year, and then have to turn around and go play an NBA season or what have you. But it's the same with the coaches. I mean, the seasons are a grind. You know that, like the emotional grind on a season in college basketball for a coach is immense, and then they have to turn around and do it again. So that alone will tell you how big of a deal it is for him, because he's been involved now for, I think, over a decade. And it's kind of, led him to this precipice where he is going to be on the bench during the Olympic Games. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that, what that's like. And as his buddy, I'm tickled for him. What a great opportunity. And I don't think it could have come at a better time in his life either. And, and Dan, you could probably speak to this. He's changed as a coach. Gonzaga's changed as a team since he started his affiliation with USA Basketball. The type of offenses that he runs, the type of player that he's recruiting, it's all changed. I think it's all been tied together. And I think, I think that affiliation with USA Basketball and him and kind of the street cred that has come from it
Yeah.
in recruiting has, I don't know if you can measure it. And so now when these young guys see, Mark Few on the sideline during the Olympic Games with a chance to win a gold medal, I think it can only help in so many ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've had that conversation or similar conversation with a number of basketball people about the evolution of the Gonzaga program, and there's been different steps to it. But I also see that the offense has changed a lot when Coach Few has become more exposed to the international game, and that goes with his involvement with USA Basketball. I think it's a tremendous honor, like we talked about. I think it'll be a tremendous benefit for Gonzaga moving forward. I mean, who wouldn't want to play for a coach who's deemed one of the best in the world and that is representing Team USA? It's pretty cool. Before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Last question. This is actually kind of a 4 or 5 part question. I want to get your take. It's Christmas time. We're getting excited around my house, at least. Santa Claus is coming in a couple days. I'm sure coming to your house as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to name a couple people that are affiliated with the Gonzaga program, and I want you to tell me what you would get them for Christmas.
Oh my
Or maybe
God.
you have gotten them for Christmas.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big gift buyer, frankly, but I'll do my best with this.
All right, we'll start right off the top. We've talked about him on a couple different question and answers so far in this. Coach Few, what do you buy the guy who has almost anything he wants in Spokane?
Yeah. What would I buy Coach Few? A few more, a little more desire to go on longer fishing trips. I don't know if he's ADD or what he is, but it's hard to get him to go for more than 2 or 3 days. He needs to go for a week, Dan, and so I think I would gift him a little more time away. If that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. And as
Yeah,
busy as he's going to be,
I
finding more than
know.
1 or 2 days is going to be hard. That's
Man,
for
I'll be
sure.
lucky if I see him this summer.
Drew Timmy. What would you give
Oh,
Drew for Christmas?
well, just a bigger cowboy hat, right? I love the fact that he's from Texas, and I don't think he can put that cowboy hat on enough. But maybe, a new pair of boots or maybe a 20-gallon hat. He deserves it. He's good enough to wear a hat that big.
That's awesome. Homegrown talent, Anton Watson.
Well, Anton Watson. What do we get Anton Watson? Well, his shoulder seems to be fixed, right? So he doesn't need a new shoulder. But Anton Watson. I don't know. What do we get Anton Watson, Dan?
That's a good one.
That is a good one. I'm trying to think back to the interviews I've done with him, and yeah, nothing's coming to my mind, but
he's from an athletic family.
Yeah, definitely.
He's from the area.
Yeah, but man,
he's won state titles.
How good has he been playing though, Dan?
Oh, the last 4 games he's been tremendous.
Yeah, and I'm really happy for him because, you just hope that Anton Watson wasn't going to turn into Killian Tilly, right? Where you see this ability and you see the potential, and then it was just the injury bug that just kept him from living up to that. And man, now we're seeing Anton Watson blossom. I think he's going to be a monster down the stretch in this league in the NCAA tournament. He's going to be a big deal. He's a lot to deal with defensively. And that steal he had the other night against Northern Arizona, we went up and ripped the ball out of the dude's hand and turned it and threw it down. Like it was, oh my gosh, that was good, Anton.
Yeah, it was spectacular. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Our broadcast partner for the regional games, Richard Fox. What would you gift him for Christmas?
A hairpiece. No, in all fairness, God, Richard Fox. I don't know, Dan. We should be putting you on the spot for some of these. Richard Fox.
This is my podcast, not yours.
Yeah. What I would probably do, because he is a large human. I think we would gift him because he drives around, I think, in a little Toyota truck, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a smaller Toyota
It's
truck.
one of those little tiny Toyota Tacoma. So I think what we would do is gift him a back seat in the back end of that thing and cut the whole thing out so he could sit in the back end of his truck and still drive that thing comfortably, because I'm 6'6". I used to drive one of those little Toyota trucks. I don't know how he does that. It's crazy. So I think I'd buy him a bigger front seat, more legroom for sure.
How about all-time great John Stockton?
Oh gosh. God, I think that I would gift John Stockton youth. Right? So
he's like the fountain of youth.
Yeah, but Dan, listen, I was reading this. Where is this? I'll pull it up for you if I can do this quickly. So John Stockton played all 82 games of a season 16 times in his career. That's more than LeBron, Shaq, Magic, and Kobe combined.
Wow. Right?
And so, when we talk about all of this toughness these days and how tough this guy is or how tough that guy, John Stockton was playing through pain and injuries. So I think I would gift John Stockton maybe, another day in his prime, just to see what he would do in this game where the space is so open, right? I would have loved to see Dan Dickau play today in the NBA with all this space and room to operate. What would Stockton do today? I watched David Stockton tonight in a G League game, and with all the space that they play with now, that David Stockton is a stud. Oh my gosh, the things he was doing with a basketball. Crazy.
That's funny. That brings up a stat that I read the other day. I can't remember where it was, but it was the year Michael Jordan, I believe, averaged 34 points a game. And John Stockton had a great year the same year, and they combined the production for both Jordan and Stockton, points plus baskets and assists, so the points that they produced.
Yeah.
And just at first glance, you would think Jordan runs away with it, right?
Right.
John Stockton produced more points per game that season because I think he averaged 17 points and 14 assists than Michael Jordan did for his Bulls teams. That's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling.
And then you're right. In this age of the more possessions in the space, John Stockton would average 17, 18 assists.
And what would have Karl Malone done, right? Like, yeah, he would have broke the scoring title.
Yeah, because you couldn't touch a guy. So as good, as hard as he ran the floor, posted up, he would have had a field day as well. So last one before I let you go.
I think I'm failing.
No, these have been great so far.
Okay, all right, good.
What would you give Chet Holmgren?
Oh, Chet Holmgren. I would get Chet. You know what I would give Chet Holmgren? It was one of my favorite gifts when I was a kid. Like those McDonald's
don't say
bucks.
A Happy Meal.
No, Mickey D bucks.
Oh,
like just an unlimited supply. Those are like to go have a milkshake every day and to put some beef on those bones, Dano. That's what I think I would get him. And I used to love those when those showed up in my stocking as a kid. And he's skinny and I was skinny growing up. It's hard to probably buy into that now. But yeah, I was extremely skinny growing up. So, I can relate. And it wasn't milkshakes that put the weight on me. It was another beverage, but I don't think Chet's going down that road because his future's too bright. So I think I would just get him a bunch of McDonald's bucks. They still sell those things?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know.
Yeah, those are a big deal. They always ended up in my Christmas stocking. It's
awesome.
Not a good one, huh?
Well, Greg, I appreciate it. As always, it's fun to talk on topic for Gonzaga basketball, but it's also fun to get off topic occasionally. So appreciate it. Have a great Christmas. And you and I and Richard Fox will be back very soon on the other regional broadcast for Gonzaga. So thanks again.
Merry Christmas, Dano.
Absolutely. You too.